Okay, I've got 3 tips for you if you struggle regripping your golf clubs at home. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you 3 tips to help you if you struggle regripping your golf clubs at home. Or maybe you haven't even tried to regrip them yet and you're just sort of worried that it might not go right, it might not give you the results you're hoping for. Hopefully these tips will allow you to do the job smoothly, quickly, and professionally. Okay, tip number 1, we're talking about what tools are you going to need for this job? Well, obviously there's a list of things you're going to need to do the job right, but there's a couple specific things that I think you want to pick up to make sure you can do it quickly and do it efficiently. You're going to need a golf club that you're going to regrip. You're going to need a new grip. You're also going to need some double-sided tape and some scissors. You're also going to need some grip solvent or mineral spirits. And yes, you can also use some other things that are a little more flammable, gasoline, lighter fluid, things like that. Again, those are getting a little more dangerous. I don't know why you wouldn't just use grip solvent or mineral spirits, both of which are very easy to acquire either online or in a shop. So stick with the stuff that's not going to catch on fire. 2 last things you're going to need, and this is one of my first tip pieces, is yes, you're going to need a utility knife. And there are plenty of people online, lots of YouTube videos where people do regripping jobs at home using a standard straight edge utility knife blade. Yes, you can do it that way. Yes, you can get the job done. But is it the best tool for the job? No, it is not. A straight edge utility knife can very easily cut into a graphite shaft if you're not careful and possibly damage that shaft so you have to replace it. You can also very easily cut into yourself and damage it. So yes, you can do it that way, but what I recommend, and I say this in pretty much all my regripping videos, is you want to get some hook blades for your utility knife. These hook blades you can buy just as a little pack, just like any utility knife blades. They fit into any standard utility knife, and quite honestly, for under $10, you can buy a pack of these that will probably last you your entire lifetime of regripping golf clubs. Now, the last thing I think that comes in handy here is some sort of tray, some sort of pan to be able to catch the solvent or catch the mineral spirits when it falls off the grip. And yes, you could do this outside and not worry about it, but if you're wanting to do it indoors, it's good to have something to catch all that with. And for me, I think the best tool that you can find that's super easy to find and super cheap is just a standard metal or plastic painter's tray, the kind that is at least substantial and has some structure to it. It's not just the liner kind that can kind of fold up on itself, but something with some structure to it. This is going to be especially useful in this demonstration because we're not going to be using a vise, and I'll show you, but this comes in very handy as a sort of shelf also as we go through the process. All right, let's take off the old grip and the old tape. Again, we've got our hook blade. We're going to hold the shaft like this because we're not using a vise. We're going to put the knife underneath the edge of the grip like this, and we're just going to pull the knife away from our body, away from our hand, so there's no chance of injuring ourselves. Okay, we got the grip off, and now I am just removing the old tape. If the tape comes off very nice and smooth and easy, that's great. If it kind of sticks on there a little bit like this one and doesn't really want to come off, we can just get a hair dryer or a heat gun, something like that, run it over the tape for 20, 30 seconds just to kind of soften up that adhesive, and that'll make it a lot easier to get all the old tape off. Okay, next up, we're going to measure out a piece of tape, essentially that is just a little bit shorter than this grip. Call it about a ½ inch. Here's our tape, here's our grip, about a ½ inch. Don't worry if the tape doesn't go all the way to the end. It doesn't need to. Anywhere kind of down here is fine. All right, now we're going to put this piece of double-sided tape onto the shaft. Now, that brings us to tip number 2, which is this process always works better when the weather is warm or when it is warmer where you're doing the work. So if you are trying to regrip clubs and it is under 60 degrees and you are out in a garage or outside or somewhere where the weather is not warm, you are going to make this a lot harder on yourself because, one, when the weather is colder, the tape does not stick as well to anything. And so that includes when you're trying to actually get it to stick onto a shaft. If the tape is cold, if the shaft is cold, it is not going to want to stick well, and you will have a lot of trouble getting it to stay on the shaft and stay curled around it. Also, when it comes time to actually putting the grip on using the solvent, again, if the solvent's cold, if the tape is cold, if the shaft is cold, it makes the whole process a lot more difficult. If you're not doing your regripping in warmer weather, make sure you're doing it somewhere where the temperature is warmer, because if it's under 60 degrees, it's going to be a lot harder. So whether that means doing it in your kitchen or somewhere else in your house where it's climate controlled, or somewhere in a heated area, or even worst case, just keeping all of your pieces, the shaft, the grip, the tape, the solvent, warm until right before you're going to use them, will make this process go more smoothly. If everything is cold, it is going to be an uphill battle. Oh, and here's a little bonus tip, and I can't remember who first told me this tip, but I get this question a lot about how do you get the backing, this double-sided tape, when you peel it off, one side is already sticky, but the other side has paper backing. How do you get this paper backing off? Because it can be a pain in the neck to get this stuff separated. All we're going to do is take the very corner of it and stick it up on your thumbnail and just kind of press it down on there for a few seconds so it's sticking there. From here, we're just going to take our other thumbnail and just separate the backing from the tape, just like that. Now let me also just show you the setup here, and this is where the paint tray comes in, because here I've got the club. Notice I put a towel underneath it just to kind of stabilize it a little bit. And then here's my paint tray up here with the shaft just leaning up here on the front. This paint tray is pretty darn stable, so it can sit up here, it's not going to rock around, and it's going to keep everything from getting overly messy. So we can also now use this when we're putting our tape on. We're going to take our tape and we're just going to overhang about, less than half an inch, say between 1/4 and 1/3 of an inch over the edge of the shaft, just like this. And then we're going to press the rest of it down, and then we're just going to wrap one side around like that, and then wrap the other side around just like that. All right, tip number 3, I'm just going to show you what I think is the easiest way to, one, get the grip on, because some people seem to have issues sometimes getting it started. That seems to be the hardest part for a lot of people, is just getting it onto the shaft. And then once we get it on, the right way to fully get the grip onto the shaft. Okay, so we've got our shaft leaning on our drip pan, held up nicely so we can put solvent over it, catch any drips. We've got our grip ready to go, and we've got our grip solvent ready to go. Most important thing when we're applying the solvent is we want to make sure that all the tape gets solvent on it, and then specifically we want to make sure that solvent is touching or coating the inside of the grip up here at this end. Down here, doesn't really matter. You really don't need to focus on that. It's good if it gets all the way through, but it's really up here where you're going to run into issues if you don't have that solvent coating the inside of the grip here. So that's really where we want to focus. So in this case, we're going to fill up the grip with a couple squirts of grip solvent. Another tip here, don't be afraid to use plenty of grip solvent. If you're at all worried, go ahead and use more. Again, we can reuse it, we can catch it and use it again, so no reason not to use it. And then I just like to let it run out of the little vent hole in the back of the grip, just like that. Again, if you're worried that, oh no, I don't know if I got enough on there, well, go ahead, we can add a little bit more. And again, if you're worried, I don't know if I got enough in the end, at the tip end of the grip, we can pour a little bit more in there just like that. Okay, now at this point, where people seem to have a lot of trouble is getting it onto the shaft in the beginning. Okay, so what we're going to do is hold the shaft like this, we're going to hold the grip like this way here at the end, get it kind of lined up the way we want it, and we're just going to hold it 45-degree angles and push it up onto the shaft. Once it gets on there, we're going to work our hand back so that by the end we're pushing from the back end of the grip. It's going to look like this. Start off 45-degree angle, get it started, start pushing it on. Once it's on a little bit, move back. Once it's on a little more, move back. Keep moving back until it's all the way on, just like that. Again, we do it all over the drip pan so nothing leaks or gets on the ground. And now, once it's on there, we can make any sort of adjustments we need to make sure that it's straight, that it's lined up. Last thing we want to do, give it a little wiggle at the end. Make sure there's no gap there. Make sure it's nice and snug. We'll tap it down on the ground a couple times, and we're ready to go. At this point, we can just let it sit wherever to dry. I like to let them sit grip down to let any sort of drainage come out of the vent hole at the bottom. And in about 45 minutes, you're good to go. All right, even without a vise, very simple. You can still get grips on and not make a big mess and not injure yourself or damage the golf clubs. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon down below so you'll be alerted when I post new videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.